Hey guys, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Today is Warcraft Monday and I'm going to be reacting to the 1000 Years of War Part 2, The Emerald Star by the World of Warcraft YouTube channel. If you want to check out my previous reaction to Part 1, The Two Bright Lights, remember the playlist card will be at the top. Just click on it and you'll be able to access it. If you want to check out the original video as well as World of Warcraft's YouTube channel, remember the links are in the description below. Yes, last week with part 1, The Two Bright Lights, Alleria, Windrunner and Turalyon, they've both been lost in the twisting netherworld after the cataclysm that had been created by Ner'zhul as he was opening different portals to different worlds. It literally, teared Draenor apart. It destroyed it, and these two were should I say Turalyon wanted to escape, so the only way for him to escape was to enter into one of the portals, and Alleria also followed him through that same portal probably, or she went into a different one, but they landed up in the same dimension, which is the twisting netherworld. So they've been stuck in the twisting netherworld. They didn't understand this place. The place looked like Draenor, or it looked like Outland, but it wasn't really Draenor or Outland. It was a different place. And in this place, they were stuck with a demon that was hunting them down. They were then rescued by Refraction or Lefraction. I can't pronounce that the warrior Light's name, but yeah, he's a commander in the Light Army, if I can say that. And he saved them, and he further explained to them what's he all about, what does he represent, and Turalyon already felt that he could be trusted because they are both warriors of the light. And then Zahara, the mother of the light, if I can say that, Naru, further discussed with them both, telling them that they both need to join up with her cause in fighting the Burning Legion. It's the only way to protect Azeroth. It's the only way to protect their son. And they made that decision that yes, they will continue to fight against the Burning Legion, but not on Azeroth and not with the armies of Azeroth, but now fighting under the banner of the light. So now we are continuing on with the couple, Alleria and Turalyon, as they journey forth with the light, and let's see what happens next. Okay, part 2. Three, two, one, go.
Blizzard Entertainment presents 1000 Years of War, the story of Alleria and Turalyon by Robert Brooks, narrated by Stephen Pacey. Part 2, The Emerald Star.
Step forward, Turalyon, son of Doris. It is time.
Turalyon stepped into the column of light. He was not alone. Alleria stayed with him.
The path of light is different for all of its children. Tell us how it led you here.
I was born into the nobility of Lordaeron. I studied in the ways of the light as a boy, and I became a priest, healing the sick and the wounded. I took up arms when my world was invaded, and with my brethren of the Silver Hand, I learned to wield the light on the battlefield.
And what will you do now?
I will serve the light until my dying day. This I swear.
So the light shall bless you. Take a moment to prepare.
Alleria gently grasped Turalyon's hands.
Yes, but what about Alleria herself? Why wasn't she asked the question by Zahara, asking her what led her to the light as well? I know she's not as well versed in the light like how Turalyon is. I know she's not really, like a paladin, for instance. She is still a believer of the light, though. So maybe they'll ask her later. I don't know.
Palms were down, hers up. They stood face to face, the light shining down on them both.
Are you nervous?
She asked. Turalyon smiled.
I am.
The music is so nice.
The gentle murmur of Zira's presence surrounded them.
Your old life has passed. The light will forge you a new one.
I am ready, Zira.
The light descended upon him. Alleria could feel Turalyon's pulse thumping evenly but strongly. His hands began to grip hers tightly. His skin grew warmer to the touch.
I will see you on the other side, my love.
Alleria said. The light delved into him. He did not flinch. Zira's words filled the silence.
The light will grant you wisdom. The light will heal your scars. The light will show you your destiny.
He went unnaturally still, his hands dead weights. Alleria knew his mind was now being borne across an ocean of creation.
What is he seeing?
She whispered.
When one is forged in the light, one sees their past. Then they see glimpses of their future. I hope he brings back good news. The Burning Legion has changed the fate of all things. But where fate has changed once, it can change again. It is through beings like you, Turalyon, and the rest of the Army of the Light, that it will be so. Light willing.
But then what about her? What about Alleria? Guys, maybe I'm being too picky on this, but they're together. They came together. They're holding hands. They are together in the light. So why? Why does Zira only focus on Turalyon on this matter? But anyways, yeah, maybe I'm being too picky on this. I don't know.
Alleria knew it would be a long wait for Turalyon to return. She closed her eyes. She let her mind roam, seeking the same thing she always sought. Today, she was rewarded. Images filled her mind. Not a vision. No, this was not a glimpse of what had happened or what might happen. This was happening right now. She was sure of it. Alleria gazed upon a city, half-built, the rubble of wars past not entirely cleared away. Stormwind. It had to be Stormwind. The humans had begun to rebuild it. It was a bright, sunny day, and the path to the city walls was filled with throngs of people, soldiers and civilians and nobility. Standing before them was a number of dignitaries. She saw banners from Stormwind, Lordaeron, and Quel'Thalas. In front of that banner was her sister, Sylvanas. Alleria's heart soared. Most of the Windrunner lineage had died when the Horde invaded. Sylvanas was one of the few who hadn't.
Wait, how many Windrunners are there? I know like there's like 4 sisters, right? If I'm not mistaken. Or is it 3 sisters? But I think it's 4. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know any other family member that they have besides the sisters, you know? Like, I don't know the parents or if they have siblings who are brothers or aunts and uncles or something like that. So yeah, to hear that they are one of the few last of their lineage is quite interesting to hear.
She still bore the insignia of a leader, Ranger General of Silvermoon. Pride beat in Alleria's soul like a drum.
If only she would know the future of her sister as well. No. Actually, don't know the future of your sister. No. That would just distract you too much on your current mission.
Outside the walls of Stormwind, rows of statues had been erected. She recognized all of their likenesses. There was Kurdran Wildhammer, Danath Trollbane, Archmage Khadgar, and there was Turalyon. Right next to him was a statue of Alleria.
Is this like the future, or because usually people build statues for heroes and heroines after they've passed, or under the assumption that they've passed away. I think that's what's happening here. I think people in Stormwind think that all of these people are dead because they haven't returned from Draenor or Outland. Yeah, after what Ner'zhul did. So yeah.
The Alliance must have believed that all who had remained on Draenor were dead. Alleria knew many of the expedition's members had survived. She had seen it through the light. But they must not have found a way back to Azeroth yet. Alleria let her consciousness float over the crowd. They were all looking upward. Yes, she recognized some of the elves there. Warriors, fellow hunters, magi, friends. And there, right there, was a little boy, sitting on the shoulders of a paladin. Arator. Her son was still a child, so tiny. He had been a few months old when she had left for war. For him, only a couple of years had passed since. His eyes were wide, his head tilted.
And considering the time dilations between the twisting netherworld as well as, the world of Azeroth during that time, the time differences are completely, evident. Where in the twisting netherworld, it could be like 50 years have passed by or 60 years. But then for people on Azeroth, it feels as if only 2 or 3 years have passed by. So yeah, the time differences will be very complicated to reconcile, yeah.
He was looking at a face he didn't remember. Alleria felt tears welling beneath her eyelids.
Speak to him.
I do not know what to say.
Through the light, you can say more than words.
Alleria understood. She thought back on those precious few months when she had held him in her arms. She let herself float in those memories, embracing her pure, infinite love for her child. Through the light, she shared that emotion with him. She saw him look around. She saw him smile. And then he looked back up at the statue of her, reaching with his hand. It was the same gesture he had made as a baby, trying to touch her chin. Joy filled her heart so intensely it hurt.
He does not know my face.
He will return here again and again to see your face. And he will know you love him.
Thank you, Zira.
Turalyon's journey was coming to an end. The light flashed from within him. He opened his eyes. They shone just for a moment. He lifted his head and took a deep breath. Alleria knew it was done. His pulse was stronger than ever, and each heartbeat thundered with the light.
Welcome back. How do you feel, Turalyon?
Like I am awake for the first time in my life.
His eyes were brimming with tears.
I saw Arator. He was grown, a paladin, standing beneath a crimson sky looking down at me. I could feel nothing but pride for him. You were right, Alleria. It is our fate to see him again.
He pulled her into an embrace. She twined her arms around his neck, and his tears fell upon her cheek. He kept his hold on her as he spoke to Zira.
I saw the Emerald Star. Our war against the Burning Legion will reveal it to us in time.
What is the Emerald Star exactly? Is it some sort of new power source or what? I'm not sure. I don't think I've heard of that during my World of Warcraft content reactions, The Emerald Star. I don't think so. If I have, then I've forgotten. Yeah.
We must be patient.
Then we are walking the path of destiny. You have done well, Turalyon.
Zira announced the good news to the rest of the Army of the Light.
Turalyon, a child of Azeroth, a human of Lordaeron, a paladin of the Silver Hand, has crossed the boundaries of mortality. He has been found worthy to become an eternal protector of creation. He has been forged in the light.
The others were there in an instant, offering congratulations and embraces of their own. They were already brothers and sisters in arms. They had fought battles together, spilled blood together, and mourned fallen comrades together. But now, Turalyon was not simply a wielder of the light. He had become one with it, like most of them. Lithraxian stepped up to Turalyon and clasped his hand the way humans did. Alleria watched with a concealed grin. Lithraxian had insisted on practicing that with her days ago. He turned to her with an eager smile.
How did I do?
Marvelous. The courts of Lordaeron would think you very polite.
Your ascension will come, Alleria. I know it.
Light willing,
she replied. But if it had taken Turalyon, a man who had studied the light since childhood, so long to earn this honor, she knew hers was still some time away. That did not concern her. The light had granted her peace today.
Okay, so yeah, it will take time for her to become what Turalyon is in terms of becoming a warrior of the light. She's still a supporter and a believer, but she's not yet fully engaged as a warrior of the light. She doesn't have those abilities that probably Turalyon has. Alright.
She no longer feared that her son would live his entire life before she saw him again. For Azeroth, it had been only a couple of years since they left. For Alleria and Turalyon, it had been more than 40. When the army of the light welcomed Alleria and Turalyon into its ranks, it brought them to their new home, the Zenadar.
The Zenadar was created by the Draenei when they left Argus, right? Wait, the Zenadar and the Genadar, right? The other one, the Genadar, went to Draenor, while the Zenadar is now with the Warriors of the Light as their headquarters, if I can say that, right? Yeah, that's also quite interesting to hear about. But what I'm worried about now is the time that's passing by. 40 years in the Twisting Netherworld, and Turalyon is still human. Or maybe when you are a warrior of the light, you become immortal. I don't know. But he's still human, and humans are aging, they grow old, they die eventually, like after 100 years or so. So I'm just wondering, how old is he now, since so many years have passed by? But maybe he is immortal because he's a warrior of the light. Yeah. Okay.
It was a magnificent vessel, wrought from the light's greatest minds, capable of traversing the twisting nether and sustaining its occupants for long voyages. It was also the light's largest remaining refuge, and the only one capable of waging war against the Burning Legion. Alleria and Turalyon soon joined the army on its raids of Legion strongholds, but first they had to adjust to life in the twisting nether. The erratic passage of time was an unexpected hurdle to overcome. While a week would pass on Azeroth, Alleria and Turalyon might experience a month passing, or 10, or more. The years seemed to blend together. But they certainly were not idle, which helped them focus. Turalyon had joined the Council of Exarchs to learn their form of military strategy. After a few years, he had worked with the Zenadar's smiths to forge a new weapon, a sword imbued with holy power. That meant he needed to train relentlessly to master it. Alleria had her own training. She had begun to study the ways of holy warfare. Within 2 years, from Alleria and Turalyon's perspective, her arrows were wreathed in the power of the light. She could have foregone her bow and arrows altogether, but it pleased her to bring Thasdara, the legacy of her family, into battle against the forces of evil. Lithraxian encouraged it.
Every one of us carries our past into war, but not all of us can use it as a weapon,
he said. He was a Nathrazim, whose race had been enslaved by the Legion long ago. Alleria soon considered him a close friend and a remarkable source of knowledge. He had spent millennia fighting on the side of demons before he had been purified by the light, so he knew how they thought, how they acted, and what they feared.
The Burning Legion does not fear the light,
he said. Alleria shook her head.
Are they truly so arrogant?
Sargeras believes he has already defeated the light.
Lithraxian offered a humorless smile.
What he truly wants is to destroy the shadow. That was my duty long ago. I hunted down creatures of the void for the Legion. Very dangerous work.
It wasn't long before Alleria learned what he meant firsthand. About 50 years.
So the Burning Legion also wanted to destroy the shadow, not just the light. Wow, okay, that's interesting. And both of these powers are opposing each other, the light and the shadow. They both oppose each other. They can't, exist in the same space. That's why the Twisting Netherworld is also being created out of their opposing forces, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So yeah, that's quite interesting that, Sargeras was also targeting to exterminate the shadow. Although I don't know if the shadow would have done anything, in terms of helping what's going on the light side of things. I don't think, because there's such opposing factions, I just don't see why would Sargeras contender them as a threat as well.
After she had left Draenor, the Army of the Light raided a small Legion prison world. When they arrived, every demon there was already dead. Permanently dead. They had been dragged into the Twisting Nether and butchered. That was the only way to put an immortal demonic soul to rest forever. Even the prisoners had been slaughtered.
This is the Shadow's work.
Lithraxian announced.
Be cautious.
They carefully searched the place, looking for any survivors. As Alleria investigated a row of blood-spattered cells, a living avatar of shadow appeared out of thin air, wrapping its incorporeal hand around her throat and slamming dark magic into her mind, trying to kill her. Only an instant passed before she called down the light upon her attacker. But in that moment, when the touch of the shadow had been upon her, her mind was transported elsewhere. Blink. She saw herself walking upon the surface of another world, one filled with demons, one she had only heard about, Argus. Blink. She stood in front of the Emerald Star and felt its terrible warmth on her face. It reached out to her, begging for help. Blink. She saw herself stepping off a cliff, falling into an infinite darkness, smiling all the way. She saw the peace in her own eyes. The moment passed, and the light crashed down upon her attacker, destroying it instantly. She felt...
Wait, so was she looking into the future? Was this shadow creature showing her possible future? And where she jumps off a cliff and, into darkness, and she's smiling? Okay, and the Emerald Star is giving warmth and also asking for help? Alright.
Fell to the ground, gasping. Turalyon rushed to her side. The light flowed into her, healing the pain.
Alleria, what happened?
Alleria forced a wry tone into her voice as she stood up.
I was warned to be careful. Perhaps next time I will listen.
She did not explain what she had seen. How could she, when she did not understand it herself? It had felt as real as any foresight she had received from the light, and yet it clearly had not been a holy vision. The light and the shadow had collided within her soul, and from that, Alleria had glimpsed something true. She could not explain how. Over the next several weeks, Alleria asked Lithraxian to tell her more about the shadow. When he told her about the creatures he had fought, he grew somber.
I have known enslavement, but serving the Legion was a mercy compared to what the Void Spawn endure.
He muttered.
And the corrupted creatures, the ones who once knew freedom, Light have mercy on their souls. Once you've invited the shadow into your heart, it ends in madness.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, Lefraction, but I'm just wondering whether this is under the influence of the light, or is this your own true words? Because I know that the light and the shadow are opposing factions, opposing forces. And those who believe in either the light or the shadow will also be influenced by those opposing forces. So I'm just still wondering either this is really the truth, what you're saying, or is it just part of the propaganda that's been fed into you, either by the Naru who are in the light, or the light itself, literally just assuming direct control of your memories and just imbuing you with negativity. I don't know. I just find it a bit strange. Yeah.
It was about what she had expected.
That is a shame. Imagine if someone could withstand the Void's corruption. They would make a powerful ally against the Legion.
The Thraxian considered that.
I wouldn't talk about such things where Zira might hear. And I doubt you would find many creatures like that. Wielding the Void creates a hunger for more power. And there's the trap. That drive for more brings you across the threshold. Once you start using the shadow, you will belong to the shadow. It was almost always a certainty.
Just as much as if you use the light, you will belong to the light. It's almost an assurity. Yeah.
Almost.
There was one.
The Thraxian had to think back.
The Locust Walker. That was what we called him. A powerful master of the Void, and yet completely free of its grasp as far as we knew. The Burning Legion lost countless lives trying to capture him. I was nearly one of them.
I am glad he did not kill you.
He did kill me. But he pulled me out of the Nether to do it.
The Thraxian laughed at the memory.
He said he saw a unique destiny for me, and wanted me to be reborn.
Locust Walker. Alleria would remember the name, but she couldn't resist asking one more question.
How many times did you die for the Legion?
I lost count.
He grinned at her.
It was pleasant, in a way, feeling your soul drift. And then Argus would drag you back, and you'd be punished for your failures. That wasn't so pleasant.
Alleria meditated on what he had told her. Perhaps there was a new way to fight the Legion. She went to Zira for guidance.
I want to find the Locust Walker, and all other beings like him.
Alleria said.
They wish to see the Burning Legion fall just as much as we do.
Alleria had expected resistance. She had not expected an ultimatum.
Understand this well, Alleria Windrunner. The light does not treat with the void. There is no alliance to be made with the shadow. It seeks to destroy or enslave every soul in this universe. It wants to consume everything.
Alleria was taken aback at Zira's cold disgust.
I understand the danger, but I am a hunter. I think as my prey does. We fight the Burning Legion now, but one day we shall face the Void. I would prefer learning how its creatures think before that war begins.
That war began before time itself. Make no mistake, Alleria. If you pursue contact with the Void, your destiny will fall into ruin. You will lose Turalyon. You will lose Arator. You will lose Silver Moon, Azeroth, and everything else you hold dear. The light and the shadow cannot exist together. You already know how to strike down the Void. That is all you need to know.
I understand, Zira.
The Naru's words were clear enough.
Yeah, they're clear enough. It's clearly evident that there can be no reconciliation between these two opposing forces. There can be no working together against a common enemy like the Burning Legion. Unlike on Azeroth, where you will find, especially during World of Warcraft Legion expansion of the game, where you would find the Horde and the Alliance, two opposing forces, but they're working together against the Burning Legion. In this situation, because these two opposing forces are not just a political term or an ideological term. This is like natural cosmic forces. You know, since the beginning of the universe, since the beginning of time and space and everything, the light and the shadow have been there, and they've been fighting against each other as opposing forces. So yeah, this is something that's so deep, you can't just, you know, brush it aside and say, let's work together to defeat the Burning Legion. It's in their nature. It's naturally just like that. I guess you could say it like that. Yeah. So yeah, if Alleria takes this path, I think her future will change. What it will change into, I don't know. Will she become some sort of, you know, terrible, evil person? I don't think so. Her willpower is just too strong to be, you know, letting her astray into dark paths of, you know, violence and evil and stuff like that. I don't think she will head down that path. Yeah. She wants to understand her enemy, understand its power, and use it against the Burning Legion. I don't think she's doing this for her own self-enrichment and stuff like that. So yeah, she's going to be fine, I think, if she does take this path.
But Alleria could not put what she had seen out of her mind. She would walk on Argus, she would see the Emerald Star, and then she would fall to darkness. Those sights had felt like glimpses of destiny, and they had been born of shadow. The other things she'd seen had not faded. She was still convinced she would see Arator again. She was still convinced the Burning Legion would be defeated. She hoped the light would grant her more clarity in the years to come. But as century after century passed, none came. She fought, she raided, she killed, but there were no more answers.
I think even the light knows that your future with us has come to an end, and a new future with you, with the shadow, is going to begin.
And then, suddenly, the time for waiting had ended. The Burning Legion had invaded the remains of Draenor, a world now called Outland. The forces of Azeroth were mounting a desperate defense at the edge of Hellfire Peninsula, holding the line only steps from the Dark Portal. Alleria and Turalyon had lived through more than 500 years in the Twisting Nether. For Azeroth, it had been about 20 since the end of the Second War, barely a single generation. Its champions were facing...
Arator must be an old guy now. He must be a young adult, not old. But yeah, he must be like a young adult by now. Wow, that's a long time. That's a long time. 500 years in the Twisting Netherworld, but 20 years in Azeroth. That's a long time. They might see their son again, but you'll find that he's like in his 40s. And they are still in their 30s here. You know, young as ever. It's going to be weird when they meet up together again.
Another critical war. But for Alleria, this was an opportunity. She asked to speak with Turalyon and Zira in private. It hurt her deeply to lie to them, particularly to him, but she knew the truth would have been rejected.
I have had dreams over the years. Faint dreams. I see myself walking upon Argus. Then I see the Emerald Star.
Alleria spread her hands, a gesture of uncertainty.
I assumed they had to be wrong. Argus is too well defended. Or rather, it was.
Turalyon understood instantly.
The demons are invading Outland. We will never see Argus so vulnerable ever again.
Alleria expected Zira to object. She didn't.
This is what I saw before you joined us. 2 bright lights from Azeroth, finding the Emerald Star together.
Alleria flinched. That was not what she wanted.
I should go alone. One person can find a quiet entry point onto Argus more easily than 2.
Turalyon just smiled at her.
You think I can't keep up with you? I'm hurt.
I did not see anything with certainty, Turalyon. There is no reason to risk anyone else.
Do not resist your destiny, Alleria. I cannot see what happens after you arrive, but I know that you continue your war against the Legion. Go together. You will not die on Argus.
After
If you don't know what will happen, that means, yeah, definitely this is where Alleria exchanges her allegiances from the light to the shadow. If you can see further of their future as they reach Argus, then yeah, something's gonna happen here. The rest of what you're saying right now, I think this is just your own belief. You believe that they'll come back. You believe that they will be all right. Which I also believe, but in what way will they return? That's the question.
a pronouncement like that, there was no more room for argument. Alleria and Turalyon set off deep into the twisting nether. They left the Xenadar in a small cylindrical pod. The light sustained them. The journey was quiet, stealthy, and slow. It would take a long time to reach Argus, and the pod would be their only way to escape it. As they traveled, Alleria told Turalyon the truth, or at least part of it.
The visions I saw were not from the light. That was why I wanted to go alone,
she said. Turalyon wasn't too bothered.
Wherever they came from, Zira believed them to be true. That's good enough for me,
He said.
There are other forces in the universe. If they want to aid the light in destroying the Legion, I have no objection.
Zira would.
A hint of a smile played on Turalyon's lips.
I trust her wisdom, but I trust your instincts too.
They flew on through the twisting nether. Alleria prayed he would not suffer if she had made a mistake. Long ago, the Army of the Light had learned the location of Argus. It was a world fully shrouded within the nether, and thus the army could have navigated to it at any time. But though it was easy to find, it was not easy to infiltrate. The primary stronghold of the Burning Legion was extremely well defended. It had to be. Even while the Legion was invading Outland, Kil'jaeden would not be inclined to leave his seat of power defenseless. But now there were gaps. Not every inch of the world would be guarded. When Alleria and Turalyon finally completed their journey, they hid in the chaos of the twisting nether and waited, watching for an opportunity. Some parts of Argus were filled with flickering lights. Others were dark and silent. Turalyon steered their transport to an open plain, far from anything of value. They emerged into the stench of sulfur and charred rock. Nothing was alive here. When the Burning Legion had taken over this world, the demons must have stripped it down to bedrock. Turalyon regarded it grimly.
I had not thought there was any world the light had abandoned.
Welcome to Argus.
Alleria said. Turalyon gestured toward the horizon. The edge of a huge canyon was barely visible. There were many lights shining from its depths.
That looks promising.
You know, I also just have to state that it's quite amazing and interesting to hear how people have built ships in this universe. While in terms of the Draenei, they've built ships, yet they still use weapons like swords and shields and bows and arrows, and they transport each other on small little pods to their next destination in an alternate plane of reality. It's like a mixture of science fiction, sci-fi kind of storytelling mixed with like medieval storytelling, with people still having titles and knights and people shooting arrows with bows and having battle war hammers and stuff like that. So it's so interesting how World of Warcraft has tried to incorporate these two genres together to make something like this. I like it. It's quite interesting, really.
Alleria pointed toward their transport. It had the means to open a rift back to the Xenadar.
And that is our way out. Remember the path. We may need to exit in a hurry.
They moved quickly but quietly. If the Legion learned they were here, it might not be possible to escape. The jagged terrain provided plenty of cover. There were subsurface caverns and crags that hid them from the eyes of the Legion's sparse patrols. Alleria stayed a couple of steps ahead of Turalyon, looking for signs of traps or enemies. Halfway to the canyon, she paused, tilting her head.
Someone has been here recently.
Turalyon silently drew his sword. Alleria gave him a flat stare.
Not like that, dear. Not a patrol, something else.
She pointed at a nearby cliff face. Parts of the blackened rock had scrape marks on them. There was a thin film of fresh ash at their feet. She knelt down. It was still warm.
Cooking fire. Tool marks. Someone is living out here.
Turalyon.
A Draenei? Is a Draenei still living on the planet? Even after all that's happened? No way.
Shrugged.
Hard to believe. But maybe we'll find some allies on Argus.
Alleria wasn't hopeful.
I mean, what are they cooking with when there's no wood on this planet? I mean, this planet was literally sucked dry of all biodiversity, ever since the Burning Legion came and invaded the world and turned it into a demon headquarters. So, yeah, okay.
Anyone living under the Legion's nose would have to be very good at hiding, and deeply paranoid. I do not believe they will let us find them. Although...
She carefully examined the cliff face.
Staying in the open would be suicide for them. Would they not need a way to... Ah, there it is.
Click. She found what she was looking for. A loose rock turned in her hand. A small section of the cliff swung open like a door, and a tiny, narrow passage was exposed. Alleria nodded with satisfaction.
There are people living out here. This is how they travel without the Legion knowing.
So probably the Draenei who were left behind when the Genadar left Argus, when the Burning Legion was invading the planet. Probably they had bunkers, like a bunker system, and they've been living underground all this time. That's good. That's good. At least some of them survived.
Turalyon led the way through the winding tunnels, using only the smallest touch of the light for illumination. For hours, all they heard was their own heavy breathing. Whenever they came to a fork in the path, they took the tunnel that curved towards the canyon. After spending so much time in the twisting nether, they had learned how to keep their orientation without suns, stars, or landmarks to guide them. As they approached the canyon, Alleria began to feel something strange, a fluttering in her mind. She looked at Turalyon. He nodded back. He felt it too. Eventually, flickering green light started to fill the path in front of them. A dull, maddening hum reverberated through the rock around them. And then, Turalyon saw an opening. The tunnel widened here. Not a natural formation, Alleria noticed. Whoever was living here must have carved a ragged window out of a cliff face to spy on the Legion.
Okay, are we dealing with the Emerald Star right now? Is the Emerald Star going to reveal itself? Is it a Draenei? Must be a Draenei. Okay.
Maybe there was a spark of resistance on Argus. Turalyon crept forward, peering carefully around the edge. Alleria wasn't far behind.
What is it?
I don't know, Alleria. Light knows I don't.
She raised her head. She was looking out over the canyon. A massive, hellish slash in the crust of Argus itself, choked with smoke and steam, and yet bitterly cold. The rumble and clamor of hammers, dark magics, and footsteps overlapped one another. They had seen fortresses on the world's surface, but those must have been outposts. This was where the Burning Legion made its armies strong. There were forges, stockpiles, demonic barracks, and countless other buildings, pits, and structures.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I assumed that, the demons that are, resurrected or they return to Argus, they are able to create their own weapons and armor just purely out of thought, just bring it into existence, and then they just adorn it and they have it in their hands, the weapons. But to hear that there's actually factories, there's actually industry that is creating this war, that's also quite interesting, really. Yeah, these demons are not the demons that I would, think about in my head, how things just start to appear because of their thought. Because, they're thinking that I'm going to be this warrior, I need this weapon, thus the weapon comes into existence. I'm going to be a warrior, I need armor, thus the armor just comes into existence. But no, there's actually a process of this happening. They have to create these weapons. They have to create the industry to create these weapons. So yeah, that's quite interesting. Argus is not just a demon world where demons just come, pop up there and they rest, they recuperate, and then they go back out onto the field. It's actually a planet filled with industry. Yeah.
They were not just on the canyon floor. The Legion had built them up the canyon walls. The fluttering in her mind grew louder, painfully so. Turalyon's gauntlets tightly gripped the edge of the cliff.
It's coming from over there.
He pointed away from the machines of war toward a darker portion of the canyon where silent buildings loomed in the shadows. The architecture was different. It took Alleria's mind a moment to understand what she was seeing. Over the past centuries of war, she had seen dozens of Legion strongholds. This looked nothing like those. So why did it seem so familiar? It reminded her of Azeroth, of the old ruins that predated even the earliest highborn settlements. Those had been Titan ruins. Why was she seeing Titan architecture on Argus? And what was inside? That thought seemed to attract attention. The presence in her mind was no longer fluttering. It went silent. It had noticed her. She felt a terrible warmth. She saw fire in her mind's eye. She saw a shimmering sphere of raw power, trapped, straining to escape a fell prison, an emerald prison. Then it stopped. It looked. It listened. It saw her. It screamed. A mountain of panic and horror fell upon her mind. Fear filled her thoughts so suddenly that she collapsed.
Alleria!
Turalyon pulled her back from the edge.
What is it?
That fear. It was not hers. It did not belong to her. So she shoved it away ruthlessly.
It is alive, Turalyon. Light, help us. It is alive.
He stared for a moment, not understanding. And then it must have turned its eye upon him. He flinched and went limp, groaning, fighting to regain lucidity. Alleria forced her mind to see what had been reaching out to them. Deep down in the belly of Argus, there was a creature of astonishing power, imprisoned by the green, corrupting fires of Fel.
No.
Alleria whispered.
This cannot be the Emerald Star.
By the light.
Turalyon breathed. It screamed again. The force of it made them tremble. Alleria could hear noises down in the canyon. Movement, marching. Demons were beginning to stir.
The Legion knows something is wrong,
she warned. It fought against its bonds, and tremors rippled across the world. Unable to escape, it screamed again. But this time, it tried to communicate. Alleria felt as its raw emotion gave way to something else. Memories. It was sending her its entire lifetime in a single, uncontrolled burst. In that instant, while the corrupted fount of arcane might was upon her, her mind was transported elsewhere.
I mean, imagine all that information all at once like that. I think you'd go mad.
Being was so much more powerful than the minion of the shadow had been. Then she had witnessed flashes of destiny. Now she lived a history that surpassed the existence of the universe. Blink. It was energy, spinning out into the cosmos. Blink. warmth near a sun, and a world formed around it to protect it as it grew. Blink. Generations of life.
It's a world soul, like Azeroth. You know, the world soul of a particular planet. Okay, so the Emerald Star is actually a world soul. Or is it the prison that contains the world soul? Oh, wow. I never even thought about that. I never thought about Argus having a world soul like, you know, like Azeroth. Yeah, wow, okay. Damn.
Lived and died upon it. Blink. It was betrayed. It was bound by something powerful. Blink. Pain. Pain. It hurt so much. Its only solace lay within its dream. Blink. They enslaved worlds. They burned worlds. They used its strength to revive their fallen souls. It hurt so much. Blink. They found another. It was much more powerful. They wanted to claim it too. Then they would be unstoppable. Blink. It screamed into the cosmos for help. 2 children answered the call. 2 bright lights. Blink. 2 bright lights from Azeroth. A world that was like Argus. Alleria ripped herself free. Now she was lying on her side. Turalyon was shaking her.
Wake up! Alleria, wake up! We have to go!
She reached up, grabbed his shoulder.
Did you see?
She whispered.
See what?
He hadn't. Why hadn't he seen it?
I think Argus, the world soul, Argus, you know, decided to give it to her alone because she's not influenced by the way of the light, if I can say that. Yeah, probably that's the reason why only she got to see that. Maybe, I don't know.
Why had she?
Argus has a soul. This world has a soul, and so does Azeroth. That is why the Legion wants it.
The confusion in his face mirrored her own. He hesitated only a moment.
Sierra will know what to do.
Turalyon closed his eyes and whispered,
We cannot free you alone, but we will return. We will end your torment. This I swear before the light.
Alleria scrambled deeper into the tunnels. Demonic shrieks filled the air. The Legion knew intruders were here. It just did not know where. She tugged on Turalyon's armor.
If we do not escape now, we never will.
They ran back the way they had come. The Legion would scour Argus to find whatever had distressed the world soul. If the demons found their transport before Alleria and Turalyon reached it, there would be no way off this world. It took hours before Alleria and Turalyon emerged into the open air. No demons were around. A flash of hope came to life in her heart. Maybe it wasn't too late. Without a word, they both began running, sprinting as fast as they could. They crested a hill. Their transport was down there on the plain, only a few hundred paces farther. It might as well have been worlds away. The pod was the only way off of Argus. The Legion had found it and surrounded it with endless ranks of demons. There were too many, far too many. Without hesitation, Alleria and Turalyon charged. There was no choice, and no hope. The sheer audacity of their attack bought them time. They punched a hole straight through the demons' front lines. It wasn't enough. Each arrow, each thrust of a sword brought down another demon. It wasn't enough. Alleria swung her bow in an arc, obliterating a dozen with a scythe of holy power. It wasn't enough.
They must not capture us!
Turalyon growled.
They cannot take us alive!
They will not.
Turalyon ducked to his left, and she fired an arrow into the demon that was about to split his skull. Alleria shot 2 more arrows at once, killing 4. It wasn't enough, but it was settled. Better to die than be captured. If they died here, the Legion would not know where the Xenadar was hiding.
But Zero said that they won't die here. I also believe, that they won't die. I also believe.
Their allies would be safe, but the army of the light would gain nothing from their deaths. Had fate truly led them here just to die?
You will not die on Argus.
Zira had been so certain and so wrong. Their forward progress had slowed. The Legion's endless numbers were collapsing upon them. Alleria spotted a circle of Eridar approaching, spirals of fell magic forming into chains in their hands. They were planning to capture the two before they died in combat. Still, she fought on. It wasn't enough.
I cannot see what happens after you arrive.
This fate had been shrouded from Zira. Why? Why had she not seen this? Why hadn't Turalyon seen the vision from the World Soul? Why? All went quiet within Alleria's mind. The answer came not as a shout, but as a whisper, from a voice she had not heard before.
Because they are not free.
Turalyon was one with the light. Alleria was not yet. And not ever, she knew now. The fight was at a standstill. Alleria and Turalyon could move neither forward nor back. The end had come. The light...
Wait, that whisper said because they are not free. Who is not free? I don't understand.
Could not save them.
I will see my son again,
Alleria whispered. It felt as true now as it had always been, even on the precipice of the unthinkable. She knew where that voice had come from. She knew what it wanted. And she knew only it could save them. She lashed out with the light one more time, clearing a swath of space in front of her. Then she let it go. She reached out for the void. Dark power flowed into her. She did not know how to control it, but that did not matter. Something else far away did the work for her. Something else far away wanted her to survive. She could feel its maddening whispers flooding her thoughts. A jagged portal opened from thin air, black as the darkest corner of the universe. Turalyon turned with a jolt. He stared in shock at the portal.
Alleria!
The way he said her name broke her heart. With a scream of despair, Alleria hooked her arm around Turalyon's throat and dragged him through the portal. She felt him shout in pain as he crossed its threshold. The light and the shadow cannot exist together. She could feel his pulse. Crossing through void power hadn't killed him. The portal snapped closed. Alleria collapsed on all fours, exhausted, gasping. She looked up into the swirling, shimmering mayhem of the twisting nether. She and Turalyon rested on a hunk of rock, floating in the midst of nothing, barely big enough for the two of them. Alleria let the shadow go, pushed it away. The whispers of madness faded. Turalyon was sprawled on his back, groaning. Alleria watched him. Pain squeezed her soul for what she had done.
But it seems as if she can control the shadow. It's not consuming her. She can control it. Meaning there is a possibility that she will be able to master it and also control the light. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming out here, because she was using the light when they were fighting against the demons, and then she switched over to the shadow. So maybe she can control both sides. She just needs to master that ability. Yeah, I'm hoping.
And for what she was about to do.
We are safe. Far from Argus,
she said. He slowly sat up. His eyes took in the chaos of the nether, and then he could do nothing but stare at her.
What? What did you do?
She didn't answer him. She wanted to lie to him, but she couldn't. Not again.
Alleria.
He reached for her. She pulled away.
Alleria, please. Why? Why?
Her voice was calm.
That is what I asked. Why? Then I understood. We were not meant to die on Argus today. Even Zira knew it. But she could not see how we escaped. She could not see that it was the shadow that would save us.
I would rather have died than have you fall to evil.
I know.
You see, that's another one of those propaganda nonsense that the light is telling you. Shouldn't you be valuing the more important thing, that you are both alive, instead of saying I would have rather died than to see you being consumed by the shadow? Come on.
And yet my fate has not changed. We will see our son again. We will defeat the Legion.
Alleria,
Turalyon's voice was choked with horror.
this can be undone. Ask forgiveness. Forswear the shadow. I'm sure Zira will help you.
He did not understand. Alleria could not fault him. She only understood bits and pieces of what she had done.
I was destined to walk the path of light for a long time. Now I must learn how to survive a new path.
She wished she knew what lay at the end of it. He leaned forward, grabbing her hands.
This isn't the way.
When they touched, pain shot through her. She flinched. So did he. The light and the shadow cannot exist together. He let go.
Yeah, like I was discussing about the opposing forces, the light and the shadow. They are always at conflict with one another. It's just naturally like that. So yeah, this is also quite surprising that, you know, because they are part of these two opposing forces, they can't be together. Man, this is like drama, like really. Like people who love each other so much, I mean, they have their whole lives together. Next thing, they have decided to choose different paths of what? Of teaching. Yes, of teaching. Two different paths of teaching. One is with the light, the other one's with the shadow. They can't be intimate with one another because the powers that are imbued in them are opposing each other. So yeah, I don't know. It's just like a romantic kind of romocom. I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it, but it just feels like a drama. Yeah. Huh.
Looking at his hands in disbelief.
Find your way back to Zenadar. The army of the light still needs you.
Another portal, jagged and black, opened up next to her.
Just know that we are not enemies. Not now, not ever. Believe it, Turalyon. Please believe it.
Alleria, wait.
See you on the other side, my love.
She wanted to stay. She wanted nothing more than to embrace him, renounce the shadow, and return to the light. But that was not the path that would protect Azeroth. If it was her fate to fall to darkness, she needed to learn how to endure it. And if she couldn't, she needed to be far away from the people she loved, for their sakes. She pushed herself into the portal. Her last glimpse before it closed was of Turalyon. He was reaching out for her, tears staining his cheeks. He looked as if he were watching her end her own life. She was not so sure he was wrong.
Okay, guys, that's it with 1,000 Years of War Part 2, The Emerald Star. Alleria, I think hopefully we get to know more about the shadow side of things. We've always been told what the shadow's like by the light side, and we've always been seeing the light side of things, how they operate, how they do things. So now hopefully in part 3 we get to see how the shadow operate and how do they view the light, and what do they do exactly in fighting against the Burning Legion. And as the shadow, what's their natural actions, like what do they do exactly? Because on the light side we've always been told that they are evil, they are wicked, they desire to consume or to destroy or to control. So yeah, I want to see if that's actually all true when she enters into the shadow and she becomes one of them. What exactly happens to her, and what is expected of her now, since she's now being a part of the shadow. So yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens in part 3. Hopefully they do discuss about this. I don't want to be stuck with Turalyon the whole time. I mean, I like the guy, but Alleria's story path is taking a far more interesting turn. She is taking a path that we've always been told is dangerous. So now we're going to see whether that's actually true. Yeah. It is sad that they have to be apart from one another. Hopefully they will be able to get back together. I'm also hoping that Alleria will be able to master her new abilities as someone who's taken the path of the shadow, and as well as mastering the light, because I believe that she can master both of them somehow. I don't know, guys. I mean, like, why did she use the light against the demons, right, when she was on August with Turalyon, but then she put that aside and then she started using the shadow? So that means she can use both of them. It's interchangeable with her, maybe. I'm hoping. But yeah, this was an interesting episode. Seeing how the Naru Zira has been very adamant, telling Alleria to don't go looking out for such dangerous subjects like the shadow. Don't put yourself into that mess, because the moment you do, you will lose everything. That was an ultimatum to her, telling her, if you do this, this is the consequences of your actions. If you stay away, clear from it, then you will be able to see your son again. And I know with Alleria, she's not the type of person, she doesn't seem like the type of person to take ultimatums. She's not the type of person to submit herself to others. I think she goes by her own instinct. She's very strong-willed, just like almost all the other Windrunner sisters. They're all very strong-willed, all very independent. They're all very inquisitive, and they try to achieve what they want, almost no matter what the cost. Yeah, and they take reckless decisions sometimes, with the Windrunner sisters, I should say. So yeah, Alleria is just doing what she believes she needs to do after seeing all these visions, either from that shadow creature or from August, the Emerald Star. She is taking in all this information, and she's come to a decision that the only way she's going to figure out how to defeat the Burning Legion is by joining forces with the shadow and learning from them how do they fight against the Burning Legion. And you also have to remember what's his name again, Reflexion. Yeah, what Reflexion said about those who are part of the shadow, that they are deadly killers. They can obliterate any kind of force that's been sent towards them by the Burning Legion. So their power is already something to be feared of, to be respected, I should say. And maybe that's also one of the reasons why she's seeking out this power. She's seeking out these people who are part of the shadow. So yeah, all the best to her. All the best to Turalyon. Hopefully his heart won't be too broken. And he better remember the words of his wife, of Alleria, saying that I'm not your enemy. Don't forget about me. I won't forget about you. I'll still love you. You must still love me as well. I'm still your wife. This is me. This is Alleria. This is not some shadow creature. This is the woman who gave birth to your child. Don't forget that. And I agree with her, because I can see this kind of manipulation and propaganda that's been spread in the Warriors of the Light to always see those of the shadow in such disgust and distaste. And like I said before, it's to be expected, because these are two naturally opposing forces. They've been there since the beginning of time, opposing each other. And this is something new, a relationship that's now being separated by the light and the shadow, but they still love each other. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting dynamic, I think. Yeah. Okay guys, I guess that's it. If you liked the video, remember to give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as YouTube, World of Warcraft YouTube channel, the link is in the description below. Okay?